Okay. Um. Uh, I don't know. I figured since this stuff is always running around in my head while I'm drawing, anyways, while I'm drawing and coloring and stuff, I might as well talk about it. It's a little difficult to talk and draw at the same time, but I'm trying. So I've been thinking about things like, well, just encouragement for artists, encouragement, and just sort of, you know, acknowledgement, encouragement, and plays into self-esteem, and how self-esteem can play into the success or lack of success of an artist. Um, and it does play a big part, a very big part, um, because art is so emotionally tied into the artist. Um, Creativity in general is so it's an emotional connection. You know, it has we're so connected to it emotionally and um, just personally. I mean, it is a part of us. So it the success or the well, let's not even talk about failure. Let's just talk about the success of a creator. The success of an artist is a lot of times dependent upon self-esteem and how they feel about themselves. Um, but it has a lot to do with what's really written, a lot to do with encouragement. Um, Self-esteem definitely stems. Part of it stems from encouragement, especially early on at a very early age, because for a lot of us, we find ourselves drawn to creating at a very young age, um, because as you know, as children, we're encouraged in maybe a involuntary, accidental sort of way. You know, it wasn't on purpose that we were being encouraged, but when you're a little kid and you can draw, it's it's sort of seen as novel. Um, Adults walk by and they see that you can draw, and I mean, you draw it like a kid draws. Not every I've only ever met one kid who could really draw. It was amazing, but he was also a kid still, though. So it was still a child's drawings, but very good for his age, very advanced for his age. But even though, having said that, I mean, there's just when we're kids and an adult walks by and they see that you can draw and stuff, and they go, "Oh, that's great! Oh, that's so wow! That's wonderful! Oh, you're gonna grow up to be an artist." And people compliment you. They compliment you left and right. And as a kid, it feels good. It's like, oh man, that feels great. And so you do more. You just kind of do more. You know, kind of looking for the compliment, but sort of just it's because you're a kid. Um, but that sticks with you. It stays with you. That kind of thing stays with you. And for the majority of us, it doesn't continue through life. For the majority of us, it kind of ends at childhood, and we don't see it into our teens and into our time as a young adult, which is unfortunate because that's when you probably need it the most, when most of us are at our most fragile, um, emotionally, hormonally. We're just It's when we probably need the most encouragement. And the one thing that is a part of us, on that, like I said, on that emotional level, and all it would take is somebody coming through and going, "That's really nice. I like that. We should, yeah, wow, this is really cool." I mean, to make a person feel good and want to keep going. But it's, well, let's go back to childhood. And the thing I find with most of my friends, maybe not all of them, um, but most of them, we're all uh, from divorced families. One, let's just get that out of the way. Oops. From divorced families, um, children of divorce. But we all are artists and had encouragement early on, but didn't continue to see it as time went on, which is unfortunate. But I was able to see the impact that it had, you know, uh, and I did realize that what it was saying was, you have to realize that, well, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going in a million places at the same time because I'm trying to tie in all these threads together. But there's, in the past, I have received emails, letters, things like that from other artists, younger artists, when they came about my work. Like they were reading Goblin and they were seeking advice, asking what they should do because they wanted to be an artist. They wanted to pursue becoming an artist, professionally. But their parents were very much against it. They were fighting hard against it. And it's like, well, at the time, for most of them, I stayed out of it. I didn't give them advice, and that was maybe a mistake. I, 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 I felt that it wasn't my place to get involved in uh, family matters that were not my family. Um, it's kind of weird for this stranger to come in spewing advice at people, and it's like, well, it's none of your business. Um, but I definitely understood. I mean, I feel it. The same thing happened to me, and the thing I realized though was our parents. There's a disconnect. They they don't see it the way that we see it. They don't see the art the way we see it. Most of us, when we look at our art, and we're what, when we're at 20 or 25 or hell even 16 or 18 or something, it doesn't matter how old you are. You're not a kid anymore. I'm saying when you're not a little child being complimented on your drawings of Snoopy or whatever. Um, that's me. But I mean, it's a different experience for your parents because they're introduced to this aspect of you as a kid. You're a child when you first start developing as an artist, and they take notice of this ability that you have that may or may not be something that they can relate to. Um, and the issue is that you grow up and you continue to pursue art. And for you, you experience development, you experience growth as an artist. Your skill changes, you grow, and you become better and better and better. But you have to realize for your parents, they're always your parents. Even when you're 60, your parents will still be your parents, and you will still be their child. And so the thing I've noticed in my own personal experiences is that I will always be my mother's son. I will always be her little boy, no matter how old I am. And so they can't see past you as a child. You always will be their little baby that they held. You will always be that. And so this aspect of you essentially is still the same. It's it was like a it was like because it came into being when you were a child. Usually, for most of us, not all of us. Like just yesterday, there was a guy who was talking. He sent me an email. He was talking about the fact that he didn't send me an email. He sent me a message on Instagram, and talking about the fact that he just came into art at 50. I'm like, wow, 50. That's, you hear about that, but wow. But because we're children when this begins, this voyage for us begins, it to our parents is like a toy. It is. It's just one more toy. It's something that we interact with and we're learning and we're growing, we're developing our brains, things like that. So it very much is like a toy. It's not exactly. They understand that, but it is still like a toy. And it really becomes apparent as we get older and we still hold on to it. And that's what they're seeing is you're still holding on to childish things. Let go of these things, grow up, and move on into the adult world kind of thing. And it's like, no, you don't get it. You don't understand what this is about. Um, and it's because they don't see, even though they can clearly see the development. They can see that you can draw. You can draw. They they still don't see that you can draw. They don't see that you're not drawing the same as you did when you were a little kid. They don't see that you are actually creating something that is fully rendered and recognizable to everyone and that can be appreciated. They don't see that because you are still their child as always. And this they associate it, it's psychological. They associate it mentally with you as a child. So it's still a toy. And they want you to move on from that. They're usually worried about our development as adults, not realizing that this is something deeper. It's a passion. It's a calling to do this kind of thing, to in the way that most of us do, where it's just you have to. You're compelled. I know I am. But that's kind of the issue, is that they're not able to move past themselves. They're not able to move past and grow with you as you're growing. And that's not true of all parents. And that's what I was getting at. Usually, you can see in some of the most successful artists, they had a history of encouragement that continued from childhood all the way up through their teen years into their young adult life, and that continued. And it never really stops. I mean, it never really stops. I mean, look at. Well, no, I can't think of an example. Honestly, right now I can't think of an example. I guess you can think most artists, contemporary artists, who are successful now and have been. If you can think of an artist that's been successful for maybe about 20 years, they probably got into it when they were fairly young, and if they're still popular now, that's the reason, is because they're still getting that encouragement, and it's that encouragement that creates the drive, in you, that it keeps you feeling positive, it keeps you feeling relevant, it keeps your self-esteem up, and it keeps the depression away. And, low self-esteem is the dream killer. Low self-esteem is stagnation. It is low self-esteem. It is fuel for procrastination, and it only leads to depression. And none of us need that. Not creators. No, not artists. We need encouragement. encouragement. We need to be moving forward. We need drive. Um, but I did that wrong. I did the wrong ones. But what is it? Like, oh well, I was talking about the successful artists. They they usually did get a lot of encouragement when they were young, and it carried on through their teen years and through their young adult life, and into their adult life. And I, it just it has an impact on you, on your self esteem, encouragement in a way that I've realized that most of my friends didn't have. Most artists that I know didn't get the encouragement or the acknowledgement, in fact, because just acknowledging someone's ability can help to boost their self-esteem. Um, you know, but a lot of my friends, a lot of artists that I know, didn't receive that through life, through their developmental years, and that's the thing. You have to realize is that this is very much a part of your development. In the same way that you develop as a human being and you go through puberty and things like that, this is very much a part of that. Art, your creativity, is very much a part of that, and so it will grow and change with you. And if it's stunted in any way, at any point in its development, it suffers for it. And because it's so tied into us psychologically, emotionally, we're so deeply invested in it, it is a part of us, it's fragile. It's a fragile thing, and it's hard, I'm realizing, for parents to recognize that if it's not something that they are themselves passionate about. And it's just, I'm having a hard time talking about it, trying to think about what to say about it, really. But I mean, that mostly is just the fact that I feel like that is certainly what it is. Mostly is that for our parents, they're not able to disassociate our artistry with our childhood because that is when it's first when it first becomes apparent to them, which is unfortunate, very unfortunate, because it it can stunt your growth. Um, it just in my experience, it has a real negative effect on the adult artist and your success. Really, your success hinges on how you feel about yourself, because this is an extension of yourself. And if you don't feel good about yourself, you probably don't feel good about your art. And if you don't feel good about your art, then you're not going to feel good about yourself. And if these two things aren't going well, then you won't feel good enough to put yourself out there and be successful, because that's what it takes to put yourself out there and let people know that you exist. Share with people what you have to share, what's inside of you, and what you can put down on the page. But it's hard to get parents to understand that. And look, I'm not a parent, but I've listened to not only my mom, but my friends' moms and a dad, depending on which friend it was, their parents talk about this kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, it's very obvious to me that that's what it is. They're just very concerned because, well, everyone's concerned with the idea that artists just don't succeed, and that's the thing. We have this notion that art is not an endeavor that can be successful. It is suffering and pain, and the truth is, it's not. We made it that way. We made it that way by allowing ourselves to get like this to a point where we are not encouraging. We look at it and we go, well, that's no, you can't succeed at that. How would you succeed at that? It's like, well, through your encouragement makes me proud of myself and what I can do, and being proud of what I can do in myself pushes me forward. It makes me confident, and confidence is what creates drive, and drive is what furthers the passion and progress, and actually creates success. Now, I will say that there is sort of a balance that you can create that you can't get with your immediate family, but you can get with your extended family, which are your friends. Um, I have always I've always associated with almost nothing but artists, which maybe isn't the best thing to do, but what I found is that because most of us come from places where we did not receive encouragement for very long, beyond like 10 or so when it was cute. Um, because of that, we're still seeking the emotional acknowledgement. We were still seeking that. We needed that, And so, certainly for me and my friends as teenagers, we stuck around each other, very close knit group of us, and we found that it helped. It helped us being around each other. We encouraged one another all the time, even in the sense of like a friendly rivalry. I mean, because that's what it was with all of us. It was a friendly rivalry, and it was healthy. It wasn't an unhealthy sort of thing. Like I said, it was friendly rivalry, but it definitely. I remember, and I have proof. I've looked through old artwork from that period, and in a single year's span, all of us advanced so much because we were encouraging each other. We were always around each other, and we're talking, and we're all just excited, and we're looking at each other's artwork and going, I can do better than that. He's getting better than me. Oh man, I have to do better. Oh, and it's silent encouragement and then verbal encouragement. Because you know you bring in some artwork the next morning, and your friends are going, oh man, that is awesome. You did that yesterday? Holy crap! It was just always stuff like that, and so you feel good. You feel good. It's positive. It's positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement, and so positive reinforcement pushes you forward. So that's what was going on. We just keep going forward, and that's really what it's about. Friendship, and then seeking out artist friends, seeking out an artist community. Really, is what I encourage all artists to do. Seek out some sort of artist community, even if it's only like two or three. That's enough. One is maybe enough. Uh, well, that's not going to really give you a good balance. It's just going to be the two of you. And if both of you are in sort of a sad place, then it's going to be just a pity party. But maybe, I don't know. It depends. It depends on how close you guys are. But it's it helps. It helps to. It's a nice substitute for the missing part. But the truth is that it doesn't 100% replace what your parents can do for you. Because sometimes friends come and go. They do. Some things happen because we're not the ones running our lives. Our parents run our lives. So if our parents decide they're going to move, they take you with them, and you lose a friend. Um, from experience. But I mean, if you can create that bond, then it's definitely worth it. I did that wrong. I just did those pages wrong. Those wires wrong. I mean, why is that doing that? That's what's going on. I was trying to figure out what was going on with these pages. Um, I had the quick mask on everything. But yeah, it's it's complicated to say the least. Um, but when it's like, well, yeah, like I was saying, they basically they rule our lives. They are in control, and that's they think that they know what's best for us. They really do. That's all they're doing. They're trying to do what's best for us, and they think they're helping. I found by discouraging us from pursuing this when it's actually tearing us apart. It creates a negative dichotomous situation, sort of, uh, to where you still are passionate about this thing, but you hate it, but you love it. You know, you're passionate about it, but you're disgusted or discouraged by it. You know, you hate it, but you love it. And the conflict for a lot of artists is so much that they just kind of give up. And I hate seeing artists give up. I hate seeing because there was something that called you to that place. There was some reason that because it's not like this is something that everyone can do. Not everyone can pick up a pencil and actually do this, and not do it successfully. I mean, it just no, it's not. But something calls, something called to you, and that's what made you want to do this in the first place. And it makes me really sad thinking about like how that sort of discouragement can lead to just people sort of ignoring the call and sort of giving up and just walking away from it. And it's I don't know, it bothers us. It bothers. Oh, I almost cuss. It bothers me a lot. It really does. Just because I mean, I look. I love my mom. I do, and I love my dad. I do, but I didn't get much encouragement from either. I especially didn't get any encouragement from my father, and he was the artist, but it wasn't something he wanted to do for a living. And I remember, and my mom has told me stories that that's what he explained because when they were very young and first got together, she asked him, she was like, "Why don't you pursue art for a living?" He was like, "It's not what I want to do for a living. It's like it's just something I can do." And he was very good, but it wasn't. I don't know. He himself probably didn't get the encouragement at a very young age, or it didn't last all the way up through until he was an adult. And so by the time he was an adult, it was just like, well, it's just something I could do. It's not something I can do. You know, it's like it's just something I know how to do, but not something I feel like I can do for a living. Um, and that's sad because he probably could have. That would have certainly made for an interesting life for me. But when I really think about it, I probably wouldn't have been born. I probably wouldn't have been born. I accept that reality. That if anything had gone any other way, that me and certainly my little sister wouldn't have been born. My older sister, yeah, she would have been born. But my little sister, no. And me neither. It's just, okay. I'm I'm sure there's a universe where that exists. I'm sure there's a couple. But, I mean, they, I definitely did not get encouragement uh, for my artistic pursuits. I only a little bit, even as a child, only a little bit, and I'm not sure why, and I've never confronted my mom about that because I don't know. It's not necessary to sort of, well, it's not that I don't want to dwell on it, but sometimes you have to sort of draw a line in the sand as far as being confrontational with your parents as adults, and blaming them for everything. Like you don't want to make, as your parents get older, they're going to feel sometimes, in my experience, watching my parents, my friends' parents, and my cousins' parents. I guess my aunts and uncles. I can say it. My aunts and uncles and stuff. Just watching them as they get older feel not necessarily guilty, but feel like they didn't do enough to prepare us for the world, the big bad world. And the last thing that I would want to do is make my mom feel bad for not preparing me, uh, because she did the best she could. She was a single mom with 3 kids, and sometimes I mean, she was holding down multiple jobs, paying for a house, and um, we turned out pretty okay. We're a little messed up mentally, but I mean, she couldn't be there at all times. But I know that she was silently encouraging me. She never actually said not to pursue art until I was an adult. As a child, it didn't dawn on me that she, I guess, encouraged it to some degree. As a child, I never noticed, but well, she liked it because I would make little comic books and they disappear sometimes, and I never knew what was going on. Where'd they go? And as an adult, I found out that my mom she'd come across them, just randomly. She'd come across them and she'd pick it up and she'd keep it. She had a whole stash of these old comics that I had made myself. Little, Ghostbusters and things like that. Just fan stuff, really. Rarely anything of my own. I think she has some stuff. But it was just, it was interesting when I found that, And it's just like, oh. But as an adult, when I hit 20, she was just like, well, not even when I was 20, younger than 20, uh, after high school, because I didn't go straight to art school. I went to art school much later in life when I could pay for it myself. That's how long it took. So yeah, put a timeline on that. Um, but she, I hmm, I hate telling this story. Look, I'll be honest. My fear is that my mom would see this one day and it'll make her cry, and I don't want to make her cry. But I feel like I have to share this experience for people to understand a little to maybe get a better sense of themselves too, maybe. But I had this friend Shannon Mustafa, really excellent artist. I don't know if she's still. I assume it's still there, that she's still creating. Oh, I hope she is. But um, after graduation, we went to these portfolio reviews. I wouldn't have gone except the fact that she was going to these portfolio reviews, and she was like, "You should bring your portfolio and come to these things, man." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll do that then." Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I went. So I went to this portfolio reviews, and talking to schools like Pratt and stuff, and Rhode Island School of Design, I think, which is where she eventually went. A bunch of schools. They liked my stuff. I mean, you know, it was fine. Um, but the one that I really gravitated towards was the Atlanta College of Art, which now is uh, SCAD. Well, SCAD's Atlanta branch, but at the time they were the Atlanta College of Art and Design. Um, Actually, only a few years away from becoming SCAD, which is really weird. I guess in the time that I would have been there, they would have turned into SCAD. That would have been really strange. But I went to a portfolio review there, and I remember the department head looking through my portfolio and being very excited. He was like, "Yeah, you'll fit in perfectly. We have a lot of guys." He was like, "What's your favorite anime?" And I was telling him, I was telling him all this stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, you'll fit in perfectly with all these guys. Yeah, this will, yeah, yeah, I can see this. And we can definitely help you grow and develop, and you'll make some really good friends, and you'll all grow together." And I was like, "Cool, I'm loving this." And he was like, and the thing was, I was sitting. It was in that like like almost how you see it set up in movies, or in a TV show or something. It was like an interrogation room. It's this huge room with a single table in the middle of the room. He was on one side, I was on the other. This long table, and my mom was behind me. She was sitting further back behind me in a chair against the wall, watching this whole thing. And it didn't dawn on me what must have been going on until later, after all of this happened. Because he was, we're talking and everything. He's just like talking about how much he really liked my work and everything. And as I got up, to shake his hand and stuff, and he was like, "So we're gonna see you in the fall?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." I was excited. I was so excited to go to school. Oh, I wanted to go. Oh man, I was so excited to go to art school. And I was, yes, definitely. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. And he was like, "Sure?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." And I'm just like, why is he doubting me? Yes. And he was like, "Okay, I'm hoping that I'm going to see you here." And I was like, "Yeah, you're definitely going to see me." I shook his hand and I got my portfolio and we walked out. And so it's me and my mom, and actually, I think my stepdad was there at the time. She got married eventually. My stepdad was there. I'm pretty sure he was there. Hard to say because everybody was really quiet, and we're coming out of the building, and I'm so excited. I'm smiles, all smiles. And I was like, "Oh man, I cannot wait for this. This is gonna be great." And my mom, she was like, she's behind me. She's walking behind me, just quiet the whole time, and she goes, "You can't go here." And I was like, "What?" I just remember stopping, almost dropping my portfolio. This super expensive portfolio that my aunt bought me when I graduated from high school. And this is, well, same year. So it was brand new, still brand new. And I almost dropped it. I cherished that thing for a long time until it fell apart. Um, and I just remember turning around. I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I can't afford to send you here." And I'm just like, "Okay." And in my head, I'm thinking, do you have to be able to afford to send me here? I didn't say it, but because I was too busy being kind of devastated, because she continued, she was like, "I can't afford to send you here. can't go to school. And then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then she said it. Get a job. I'm just like, what? And the thing is, this is the reason why I don't want my mom to see this. Because it would hurt her more than anything. To hear me say this, she did to me what her mom did to her. That's what her mom did to her. My grandmother, her mom, made her drop out of college to take care of a child. She got pregnant. She got pregnant with my older sister when she was in college. And so my mom pulled her out of school and said, you get a job. I didn't have a kid. God, I didn't have a kid. But still, she kind of did the same thing to me that was done to her, where it was just like, well, let me elaborate on that a little bit because it doesn't sound right. The truth was that she could have kept going to school. She could have gotten student loans. She could have afforded to go to school. She could have had a babysitter. She could have kept going. But my grandmother was old fashioned, like old school, old fashioned. Sorry, flashbacks. But still, I mean, the problem was that my mom didn't get encouragement because my mom is creative and she didn't get the proper encouragement in her creative endeavors. And so my mom has very low self-esteem. I recognize it because I recognize it in a lot of people. I pick up on it very easily because, well, I suffer to a degree from low self-esteem. I'm just extroverted enough that I can sometimes convince myself that I'm okay, but I can recognize it in other people, which is always why I want to help so many people. I want to help them get through it because it's a dream killer. It just is. It kills your dreams. You know, it's the worst. It's the worst. Self-loathing is the worst. But it happened to my mom. And then she was continuing the cycle by sort of doing that to me, and it devastated me. It honestly devastated me. Like, I plan on doing one of these, talking about, like, I'm actually trying to do some panels currently doing some panels at some anime conventions on different topics. One of them is living life as a hikikomori. If you don't know what that is, I'll put up the word and you can go look it up. That was me for a long time, um, especially after that incident. And it's tough. It is. But that's what was going on. I was just very depressed because it's what I knew how to do. That's all that I knew how to do. I was an artist. It was my everything. It's in me. It's a part of me. It's how I express myself. When I'm angry, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm bitter, when I'm every emotion. I ran out of emotions. Most of them were negative though, if you've noticed. But still, it was all I knew how to do. And it's like, well, I mean, and then I did the stupid thing of asking my dad what I'm supposed to do, and thinking that maybe he would understand, having been an artist. He said the same thing. Yeah, you get a job. Go and get a job. Do some real work. It's just like, how is this not real work? It exists, does it not? It comes out of you. You create it. as we create everything in the world. We create everything in the world. How is this any different? And it's different because most of us come across this when the artist is young. And so we associate it with them as juvenile, we associate it as juvenile, as childish, as play. We look at it as play because it is enjoyable. As an adult, creating is enjoyable. And for some odd reason, we don't like to enjoy ourselves. I don't know what that is. Everything has to be miserable. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why does it have to be miserable? Why does your experience in this world have to be miserable? It doesn't have to be. I mean, some of us can't help it. We're just born into the worst possible conditions. And I feel absolutely terrible for those people. But I mean, for those that aren't, why do we project that onto one another? Why do we have to project that onto ourselves when you are the difference? You make the change. You're the one that decides if you're going to live your life miserably. You don't have to. None of us do. You get up and you go and you do the thing. And that's what it took me forever to realize this, to come to this realization that I didn't need my mom to send me to school. After only a few years, I had generated enough credit, good credit, positive credit, that when I applied to school, they were like, yes, please come in. Oh my goodness. Yeah. They were very enthusiastic for the wrong reasons though. But I mean, that's schools though. They're kind of bad like that. But still, I mean, in the same way that she could have kept going to school if she had looked into things like student loans or grants, or yeah, especially grants, creative grants too, creative loans, just all sorts of stuff. But she didn't know on her own, and she didn't have anyone to go to ask, to find out. There was no one in her immediate circle, her family, or anyone that could have informed her. And certainly not her mom. Her mom was not going to encourage her. She wasn't going to acknowledge. She didn't want to acknowledge that part of her. And so she discouraged it. And then, in turn, my mom did the same thing. And in turn, I was uninformed myself. And so then it took just that much longer for me to make my way to the place that I felt most comfortable. The place where I knew this is where I belong. This is what I'm about. This is what defines me the most. This is my passion. And I mean, I hold no ill will towards her. I feel, I guess, more sad than anything by it because I went through it. I know kind of what she experienced. I mean, we've had some talks about some of this stuff a little, but not a lot, not really. Inadvertent talks, like she wasn't talking to me directly about these things. She was discussing something else, but like me, she talks a lot. And she keeps a lot of secrets, but sometimes she just talks. And you're just like, oh. Especially, I've noticed that's a thing with people. As we get older, we tend to not care about hiding anymore. We don't keep secrets anymore. We just sort of like say whatever's on our mind. And it's like that thing with, where you get like the old people that just like say whatever they want. It's just like whatever pops in their head, they're just saying it. You're just like, oh my God, Grandpa, I can't believe you just said that. But, sorry, definitely remember something like that. But, many incidents like that. I mean, but I don't know. I guess part of me, I definitely, I try to live my life with no regrets at all. And I don't regret it taking as long as it did for me to get to art school when I did, because I learned a lot on my own. I learned a lot. I honestly, I believe I suffered a lot having to work the places that I worked. They didn't encourage creativity in any way. They need the least amount of creativity, but the most amount of work initiative. You have to be passionate about their thing, not your thing. It's not about you, it's about them. It's about their profit, not your not your personal, mental, and emotional enrichment, which is what your art is about. That's your creativity. Your creativity is about your mental and your personal, emotional enrichment. It is about your growth. It has nothing to do with them. And I realized that when the job that I had just before I went off to art school, let's say I worked at Walmart. I worked at Walmart, and I was like this close away from being, a manager in the over the back room. A lot of shakeups, a lot of shakeups. It was crazy, 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 crazy. And I was taking on a lot. I was taking on a lot, and not getting paid any extra, getting promoted and not getting paid. But I told them I wanted to go to art school. I was going to go to school, and I was like, I want to work part time. I want to stay here. I want to keep working here because it's a job. I'm going to need a job. And I knew that they had part-time positions, but they were so vindictive. They were so upset that I wanted to do something for myself that they said, we don't have any part-time positions, so we can't continue to employ you. They didn't let me go. I gave them my notice, my 2 weeks notice, and called it a day. Because it was, I knew that they did. I knew they were lying. They just didn't want me to pursue my passion, to pursue creativity, because they knew that eventually it would lead to me leaving, one of the hardest workers they ever had, and I would go off on my own. I would go do my own thing. But the thing was, in by doing what they did, they drove me away anyways. So, you know, they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that, I guess. I don't know. I think Walmart, they did just fine without me. Um, but definitely encouragement. I mean, if you have the if you have the chance to encourage someone that's younger and just starting out, do so. Do so and continue to do so. Always let them know that this is something special, that it's a gift, that it's not just a toy. It's not something that it's not it's not something that everyone can do. And that if it actually is something that compels them, they should continue. And they shouldn't let anyone tell them that they are wrong for wanting to pursue this. Because that will help them. It will create drive, confidence. Encouragement creates that drive and that confidence, that self-esteem. And with that self-esteem, you feel like you can do anything. And if you feel like you can do anything, you will. You'll be more willing to take chances. And the more chances that you're willing to take, the more life will reward you. So long as they are not harmful, don't take harmful chances. Be be aware of what you're doing. Be not aware, but conscious. Be conscious of what you're doing, of the type of chances that you're taking, so that they aren't, so that you can make sure that they are not hurting the people around you. And I don't mean your parents, because your parents aren't really hurt by your decision if you decide that you want to be an artist and that no matter what you're going to. Oh, bug that just decided to fly in my face. Okay. Well, he'll probably show up again before this is over. It's weird. He's like, I'm gonna fly into that guy's big fat mouth. Um, Shut him up. But no, I mean it's not hurting them. You know, this I lost the thread of that. But no, it doesn't. It's not really hurting them. It's just, like I said, they think they know what's best for you because they're your parents. They want to. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you succeed, but they don't realize that you could succeed as a creative person, you know, in your creative endeavors, if they were willing to help you. They have to be willing to help you. And the first step in helping someone succeed creatively is by encouraging them. It's the first thing that you learn, is that feeling, you know, you get when someone compliments you. That is a form of encouragement because it feels good. It's positive reinforcement versus what most of us get when we're teenagers and young adults, which is negative reinforcement. You can't do that. You're never going to make a living doing that. Do you know how hard it is to be an artist, to live like that? Well, it wouldn't be so hard if I had had the positive reinforcement all of this time. All of this time. It's just the truth. None of us would if it existed. I mean, it's because it's gonna encourage you to become passionate about that thing. And the more passionate you are about it, the more well, certainly the more seriously you take it, and the more heart and soul is in it. And the more that you're able to communicate the way you feel to other people, and the more that connects with other people, and the more you're connecting with other people, the more successful you are, because that's what this is. This is a form of communication, and it's a form of connecting with other people. That's when you're succeeding, is when you're actually connecting, when you're communicating and connecting. I mean, yes, of course. Also, when you're able to pay the rent and your utilities and not have to worry about, if you pay this bill, will this bill suffer? That counts too. But I'm saying that can't happen unless you are making that connection with people. Really. Unless you're communicating well and connecting with them. But you're never going to be able to do that unless that encouragement is there. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're already an adult or a teenager, you can still find it. Like I said, artists. Be around other artists and really be around them. Don't just make artist friends and just kind of hang out occasionally. No, get together as a group, if not once a week, several times a week, and actually spend hours together, really getting to know one another and getting to know each other's art and personalities, and just so that you're rubbing off on each other. Your ideas, your personalities, your influences, everything is meshing together, and you're driving one another. You're actually consciously and unconsciously driving one another to be better people. You're encouraging one another to be stronger. You're helping each other. But it's it's what's needed. It's what most of us need. It's what many of us don't and didn't get. And it's sad. It sucks. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong to pursue art. You're creative, this creative side of you, this passion. You're not wrong. You're not. And anyone that tells you you are wrong, well, they're wrong. Honestly, they are. They are the ones that they're wrong. And that means that something happened to them that created that negative reinforcement in them, that discouragement in them. They weren't encouraged, and so they tried to. They're passing it. They're pushing it off and passing it off on you, and that's not what you need. That's not what you need to grow, to develop as a creator, as an artist. It's not what you need. What you need is encouragement. What you need is true development. So, like I said, I mean, if you can't, I just realized this one didn't color it. I mean, if we're talking about being at beyond that point, then or beyond the point where you can receive encouragement from your family, your immediate family, get it from your extended family, your friends. Make friends. If most of your friends aren't artists, don't abandon them, no. Because obviously they support you in some way. Obviously, they're still around. But start finding other friends as well to add to the family, to your extended family. And keep moving forward. And I guarantee you it will progress. It will help you to progress. You may not, you're probably not going to see it immediately because most of us never see it until until it's happened, because that's just the way that it is. You never see your growth as you're growing because you're on the inside looking out. How can you? But we're always growing. We're always learning and always growing, you know. But yeah, find your community, and like I said, it's it's perfectly fine for it to be a virtual community. Like if you have to do like a Google Hangout or a Skype chat where you're all doing like video. Well, Skype chats are really hard to do video conferences where you're sharing your desktop sharing and stuff, because when one person clicks on, the other person gets cut out. Or even like on Twitch, do a Twitch stream and everybody streams together, or use Picarto, and everybody streams together, like all of you, just doing that together. But do that if that's what you have to do now. But definitely reach out to be around artists physically. You're going to need to be around people. I mean, we're human, so we're social creatures. We're social, so we have to be around other people. I mean, look, I'm probably the most antisocial person. That's not true. I'm very antisocial. I can't help it. I don't know. I know we've kind of discussed what it is, what it was that made me turn out the way that I am. It's just low self-esteem. You sort of withdraw from the world. But it was through physical, real-world interactions with other artists and spending more time with them that I became more and more confident and more outgoing, and continue so. Even to this day, I mean, the more I go out, the more I enjoy those interactions, the more I enjoy creating and learning new things, and I can see the growth and the passion and the drive to become successful. Because being around other artists, even if they're not successful, it still drives you to want to be successful yourself, to want to succeed, and want your friends to succeed as well. But so definitely, I mean, even if right now you're just interacting virtually, then that's fine. But if you guys can get together, get together. Definitely get together. Get out, get together. Doesn't matter where. Just get together, hang out, work on some art, and see how much differently how different things actually go, because the energy is there. It's different than when you're sitting behind a computer and you're drawing on your tablet and you're just talking to someone and they're there but they're not there. It's a completely different experience when they're right in front of you and you can feel the energy and you can see them and you can see what they're doing right there. You can hear it, you can smell it, and everything is there. All the senses are activated at the same time. It is a real life experience. But it's all going at the same time. It's like the experience that I always talk about at conventions. When I step into a convention, a comic book convention, I sit down at that table, I immediately it just washes over me. All the energy, all the other artists, everyone there for the same reasons, and it's just so much positive energy. It's so encouraging, that everybody has this passion, this drive and stuff. And but it's that same kind of thing with your friends, on a personal level. So I definitely suggest get out and be with them. You know, let that be sort of your light, guiding you towards something better, a more progressive future, a more progressive you, a more successful you. Yeah, I feel like I've been talking so much and I haven't gotten anything done. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if I was in camera. I just assume I was, but there's a very good chance I wasn't even in camera. So I don't know. Oh, I don't know. But yeah, I guess yeah. Thank you for listening to me just ramble. Hopefully this was helpful in some way. I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to help people sort of get through stuff. I see so many artists suffer, and it just I don't know. It's not fair. It's not right because so many of us suffer alone, and part of it is because we didn't get the encouragement, and so we have low self-esteem, and so we just keep receding more and more away from the world when we should be speaking to the world and to one another through this thing that we have, this part of us that has a way of it comes out onto the page like very few things can do. We have this way of expressing ourselves as people, and I just having gone through all of this myself and come out the other end mostly good, okay. I just feel like in sharing some of my experiences and some of my observations and my thoughts on it, on the experiences, and how my conclusions, I'm hoping that it helps even a little. I hope it helps. Because I always say, like to every artist, the world needs you. It may not feel like it, but the world needs you. Somebody needs you. And you will touch more than one life with your work in some way. It may not be immediate, but it eventually. It just happens. The world needs you. And they need you to continue. Even when you're feeling at your lowest, continue. Never give up. Just keep going. Because the world needs you. They do. Okay. Bye.